Hey guys, Will Hamilton here, and in this video we're going to look at the Roger Federer, Robin Soderling quarterfinal match at the US Open. Now the last time these two guys played, well, Soderling took Fed out in 4 sets at the French Open. Now it's worth noting the conditions at the French. You had the clay courts, slowest surface in the game, and it had also been raining, so that slowed the courts down even more. And that was a huge, huge asset for Soderling in that match because the ball would bounce and it would really slow down, it would sit up, and it would allow Soderling to get set and take huge cuts at the tennis ball. So what happened was you'd have Soderling up here, and when it would bounce, well, like I said, sits up, Soderling takes huge cuts. So what Soderling was able to do was get into exchanges with Federer where you might get backhand to backhand, circles player, by the way, stick is the side they're hitting on, this is a backhand for a righty. You might get a cross-court rally like this. It might be backhand to backhand, but Soderling was able to run around a lot of backhands and end up controlling the middle of the court with his forehand. And what he would do is hammer away at Fed's backhand with inside-out forehands, put Fed on the defensive, and he would wait for Fed to leave one real short. So he'd be controlling at the baseline, and then Fed would leave one a little bit short. It'd be on the forehand. Maybe he could step up on the baseline inside, and then he'd really be in the driver's seat, could hit to the open court, and he'd be able to end the point on the next couple shots. So it was a hyper-aggressive strategy for Soderling that worked largely because, again, the slower courts allowed Soderling time to just grip it and rip it, is how the expression goes. You could just set up, and he was on balance. And Federer had a tough time keeping the ball out of the middle of the court. If Federer's in this exchange, maybe Soderling's going to his backhand, or maybe it's a backhand to backhand rally. Federer struggled to keep the ball out of the middle of the court. He'd want to get the ball over here to neutralize and keep Soderling on the move a little bit more, but he wasn't able to do that. His location wasn't quite as spot on as he would like. Well, now with the US Open, we've got courts that are much, much faster. So this strategy that Soderling wants to implement, at the French, it was predicated on having time. And with the quicker courts, the ball is going to be penetrating more. Soderling is not going to have as much time as he did at the French Open. He's not going to be set for as many balls. He's not going to be able to move around as many backhands. You get this cross-court backhand to backhand rally. Soderling looks to move around some of these and take control with the forehand. Not going to be able to do that with as many of Federer's backhands. And it's worth noting that Fed now is playing more aggro. He might have been a little bit passive the last year or so. And what I mean by that is, at the pro level, these guys, particularly on the men's tour, if you got like a neutral rally and then you could transition up to offense, well, over the course of a neutral rally, there are opportunities to go make this jump, go from neutral up to offense. It's a decision you have to make, and you've obviously made this decision if you're a rec player. Should I go for a little bit more on this ball, or should I send it back and wait for an opportunity later in the point? Well, maybe in the past year, Fed was saying, wait for an opportunity later in the point. But now, specifically the last couple months, and having been coached by Paul Annacone, you think this is some of his influence. It's basically, I've got some sort of a look, time to make this jump. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to my opponent. I'm not going to give him an opportunity to just kind of rally with me, and maybe he takes the initiative, which is exactly what Soderling did at the French. It's what Berdych did at Wimbledon. So Fed's eliminated all that. Fed is saying, I got to look, bam, straight up to offense, not going to keep this thing neutral anymore. And just generally speaking, Fed's entire game for the hard court season the last month is bigger. And what I mean by that is he's going for a little bit more on the backhand. He's going for a little bit more on the forehand, more on the serve, and he's just looking to take control of points, close the net. He's being more aggressive on his return. So there's just every area of his game is just a little bit bigger, but it shows because he's been playing really well. He played well at Toronto, obviously won since, he played great there. has looked really good at the U.S. Open. And finally, it's worth mentioning that his movement's great. When Federer is moving well, then he's playing well. And Federer's arguably his greatest weapon, his greatest asset is his movement, because he can move around a lot of backhands and turn a lot of those into forehands and go on offense. Fed's forehand is obviously, arguably the best shot in the game. So, if Soderling, I think all things being equal, Federer would win this match. If Fed plays at a high level, he's going to win this match. But what does Soderling need to do to pull it out? Well, there's the basic stuff, like he needs to serve a high percentage, high first serve percentage, 65 or higher, so that he can not necessarily serve aces, but have that first strike on ideally his forehand, so he can immediately step in and take control of the point. He doesn't want to get into too many protracted rallies with Federer on this quicker court, where he's, the number of looks he's going to get, the number of opportunities he's going to get to attack, that's going to be down simply because of the surface. Combine that with Fed's more aggressive play, I think it's going to be, Soderling has a very small window here, a very, limited margin for error. And because of that, he needs to get a lot of first serves in, protect his serve, go, be aggressive whenever he gets a look. He needs to attack when Federer gets a second serve in. And, you add all that stuff up, I still don't think it's enough for Soderling to take out Federer, just given the way that Federer is playing. So what I'm predicting is a 4-set win for Roger. We're going to say 4 sets. And, Federer is going to advance to the semifinal. I think, if I was a betting man right now, I would say we're going to get a Federer-Nadal final. Obviously, a lot of tennis left to be played. Rafa's got Verdasco, who can be a tricky opponent. Obviously, Federer has to get through this one, and then potentially Djokovic in the next round, who has been playing some great ball. So there's a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting tennis in the next couple days, and I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, again, the call here is Federer in 4 sets. I just think he's playing too well, and his mindset is right. He's got that aggressive mindset, and I think if the game's up, Federer's game's up at a high level, Soderling not going to have enough opportunities to pull this one out. So Fed in 4 sets. Looking forward to the match, and I will see you guys soon.